Leviticus chapter 9, verse 1 through chapter 11, verse 47. And on the 8th day it came to be that Moshe called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel, and he said to Aaron, Take for yourself a young bull as a sin offering and a ram as an ascending offering, a perfect one, and bring them before Yahuweh. And speak to the children of Israel, saying, Take a male goat as a sin offering, and a calf and a lamb, both a year old, perfect ones, as an ascending offering, and a bull and a ram as peace offerings, to slaughter before Yahuweh, and a grain offering mixed with oil. For today Yahuweh shall appear to you. And they took what Moshe commanded before the tent of appointment, and all the congregation drew near and stood before Yahuweh. And Moshe said, This is the word which Yahuweh commanded you to do, so that the esteem of Yahuweh appears to you. And Moshe said to Aaron, Go to the slaughtering place, and prepare your sin offering and your ascending offering, and make atonement for yourself and for the people, and make the offering of the people, and make atonement for them, as Yahuweh has commanded. So Aaron came near to the slaughter place, and slew the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. And the sons of Aaron brought the blood to him, and he dipped his finger in the blood, and put it on the horns of the slaughter place, and poured the blood at the base of the slaughter place. And the fat, and the kidneys, and the appendage on the liver of the sin offering, he burned on the slaughter place, as Yahuweh had commanded Moshe. And the flesh and the skin he burned with fire outside the camp. And he slew the ascending offering, and the sons of Aaron presented to him the blood which he sprinkled on the slaughter place all around. And they presented the ascending offering to him with its pieces and head, and he burned them on the slaughter place, and he washed the entrails and the legs, and burned them with the ascending offering on the slaughter place. And he brought the people's offering, and took the goat which was the sin offering for the people, and slew it, and made it a sin offering like the first one. And he brought the ascending offering, and made it according to the right ruling. He also brought the grain offering, and filled his hand with it, and burned it on the slaughter place, besides the ascending offering of the morning. And he slew the bull and the ram as a slaughtering of peace offerings, which were for the people. And Aaron's sons presented to him the blood, which he sprinkled on the slaughter place all around, and the fat from the bull and the ram, the fat tail and the covering, and the kidneys and the appendage on the liver, and they placed the fat on the breast, and he burned the fat on the slaughter place. But the breast and the right thigh Aaron waved as a wave offering before Yahuweh, as Moshe had commanded. Aaron then lifted up his hand toward the people and blessed them, and came down from making the sin offering and the ascending offering and the peace offerings. And Moshe and Aaron went into the tent of appointment, and came out and blessed the people. And the esteem of Yahuweh appeared to all the people. And fire came out from before Yahuweh, and consumed the ascending offering and the fat on the slaughter place. And all the people saw, and cried aloud, and fell on their faces. Leviticus chapter 10. And Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, each took his fire holder, and put fire in it, and put incense on it, and brought strange fire before Yahuweh, which he had not commanded them. And fire came out from Yahuweh, and consumed them, and they died before Yahuweh. Then Moshe said to Aaron, This is what Yahuweh spoke, saying, By those who come near me, let me be set apart, and before all the people, let me be esteemed. And Aaron was silent. And Moshe called to Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, the uncle of Aaron, and said to them, Come near, take your brothers from before the set-apart place out of the camp. So they came near, and took them by their long shirts out of the camp, as Moshe had said. And Moshe said to Aaron, and to Eleazar, and to Ithamar his sons, Do not unbind your heads, nor tear your garments, lest you die, and wrath come upon all the people. But let your brothers, all the house of Israel, bewail the burning which Yahuweh has kindled. And do not go out from the door of the tent of appointment, lest you die, for the anointing oil of Yahuweh is upon you. And they did according to the word of Moshe, and Yahuweh spoke to Aaron, saying, Do not drink wine or strong drink, you nor your sons with you, when you go into the tent of appointment, lest you die. A law forever throughout your generations, so as to make a distinction between the set apart and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean, and to teach the children of Israel all the laws which Yahuweh has spoken to them by the hand of Moshe. And Moshe spoke to Aaron and to Eleazar and Ithamar, his sons who were left, take the grain offering that is left over from the offerings made by fire to Yahweh, and eat it without leaven beside the slaughter place, for it is most set apart. And you shall eat it in a set apart place, because it is yours by law, and your sons by law, of the offerings made by fire to Yahweh, for so I have been commanded. And the breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the contribution you eat in a clean place, you and your sons and your daughters with you, for they are yours by law, and your sons by law, which are given from the slaughterings of peace offerings of the children of Israel. The thigh of the contribution and the breast of the wave offering they bring with the offerings of fat made by fire, to bring as a wave offering before Yahweh. And it shall be yours and your sons with you by a law forever, as Yahweh has commanded. And Moshe diligently looked for the goat of the sin offering, and saw it was burned up. And he was wroth with Eleazar and Ithamar, the sons of Aaron, who were left, saying, Why have you not eaten the sin offering in a set apart place, since it is most set apart, and Elohim has given it to you to bear the crookedness of the congregation, to make atonement for them before Yahweh? See, its blood was not brought inside the set apart place. You should have eaten it without fail in a set apart place, as I have commanded. And Aaron said to Moshe, See, today they have brought their sin offering and their ascending offering before Yahweh, and matters like these have come to me. If I had eaten the sin offering today, would it have been right in the eyes of Yahweh? And when Moshe heard that, it was good in his eyes. Leviticus chapter 11. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying to them, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, These are the living creatures which you do eat among all the beasts that are on the earth, whatever has a split hoof, completely divided, chewing the cud, among the beasts that you do eat. Only these you do not eat among those that chew the cud, or those that have a split hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud, but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the rabbit, because it chews the cud, but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud, but does not have a split hoof, it is unclean to you. And the pig, though it has a split hoof, completely divided, yet does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. Their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you do not touch. They are unclean to you. These you do eat of all that are in the waters. Any one that has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas, or in the rivers, that you do eat. But all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, all that move in the waters, or any living being which is in the waters, they are an abomination to you. They are an abomination to you. Of their flesh you do not eat, and their carcasses you abominate. All that have not fins or scales in the waters are an abomination to you. And these you do abominate among the birds that are not eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, and the vulture, and the black vulture, and the hawk, and the falcon after its kind, every raven after its kind, and the ostrich, and the nighthawk, and the seagull, and the hawk after its kind, and the little owl, and the fisher owl, and the great owl, and the white owl, and the pelican, and the carrion vulture, and the stork, the heron after its kind, and the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects that creep on all fours is an abomination to you. Only these you do eat of every flying insect that creeps on all fours, those which have jointed legs above their feet, with which to leap on the earth. These of them you do eat, the arbe locust after its kind, and the solemn locust after its kind, and the hargol locust after its kind, and the hagab locust after its kind. But all other flying insects which have 4 feet are an abomination to you, and by these you are made unclean. Anyone touching the carcass of any of them is unclean until evening, And anyone picking up part of the carcass of any of them has to wash his garments and shall be unclean until evening. Every beast that has a split hoof, not completely divided, or does not chew the cud, is unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean, and whatever goes on its paws among all the creatures that go on all fours, those are unclean to you. Anyone who touches their carcass is unclean until evening, and he who picks up their carcass has to wash his garments and shall be unclean until evening. They are unclean to you. And these are unclean to you among the creeping creatures that creep on the earth: the mole, and the mouse, and the tortoise after its kind, and the gecko, and the land crocodile, and the sand reptile, and the sand lizard, and the chameleon. These are unclean to you among all that creep. Anyone who touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening. And whatever any of them in its dead state falls upon becomes unclean, because whether it is any wooden object, or garment, or skin, or sack, any object in which work is done, it is put in water, and it shall be unclean until evening, then it shall be clean. Any earthen vessel into which any of them falls, whatever is in it becomes unclean, and you break it. Any of the food which might be eaten, on which water comes, becomes unclean, and any drink which might be drunk from it becomes unclean. And on whatever any of their carcass falls becomes unclean. An oven or cooking range, it is broken down. They are unclean and are unclean to you. But a fountain or a well, a collection of water, is clean, but whatever touches their carcass is unclean. And when any of their carcass falls on any planting seed which is to be sown, it is clean. But when any water is put on the seed, and any part of any such carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. And when any of the beasts which are yours for food dies, he who touches its carcass becomes unclean until evening. And he who eats of its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And he who picks up its carcass has to wash his garments, and shall be unclean until evening. And every swarming creature, the one that swarms on the earth, is an abomination. It is not eaten. Whatever crawls on its stomach, and whatever goes on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all swarming creatures, the ones swarming on the earth, these you do not eat, for they are an abomination. Do not make yourselves abominable with any swarming creature. The ones swarming, and do not make yourselves unclean with them, lest you be defiled by them. For I am Yahweh your Elohim, and you shall set yourselves apart, and you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. And you do not defile yourselves with any swarming creature, the one creeping on the earth. For I am Yahweh, who is bringing you up out of the land of Mitzrayim, to be your Elohim. And you shall be set apart, for I am set apart. This is the Torah of the beast and the birds and every living being, the creeping creature in the waters, and of every being that makes swarms on the earth, to make a distinction between the unclean and the clean, and between the living creature that is eaten and the living creature that is not eaten.